وأصحابه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم، وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم، وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم، واجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اجعل أعمالنا خالصة لوجهك ولا تجعل فيها حظا لغيرك. وصل اللهم على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين، والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. How's everyone today?
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
Good, alhamdulillah. We continue with our hadith. Last week we did the hadith لا ضرر ولا ضرار. We said that though the hadith is weak in and of itself, but it's supported by the copious amount of narrations that lend strength to each other, right? We also spoke about how that hadith لا ضرر ولا ضرار is a seminal principle or maxim in Islamic law, and it forms the basis for what we refer to as the maqasid of the Sharia, which is almost like the philosophy of Islamic law. So we move on to another hadith today. عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما. Why do you say عنهما? Because the two Sahaba, right? Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Abdullah is the Sahabi, and we refer to him as Ibn Mas'ud, Ibn Abbas, but Abbas radiallahu anhu was also a Sahabi. That's why we say radiallahu anhuma. I'm just pointing that out because if you ever sit in a hadith majlis, at times you'll hear them saying, they'll just read very quickly anhuma sometimes. If the person that's narrating, if their father was also a Sahabi, or the person that they mansoob to also a Sahabi, then you say anhuma. عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: لو يعطى الناس بدعواهم لادعى رجال أموال قوم ودماءهم. Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم says, لو يعطى الناس, were people given, if people were given, بدعواهم, be on account of da'wahum, their claims. Da'wa is a claim with a, if you write it on its own, it will be dal, ayn, waw, and then a alif maqsura, which is a ya with no dots, right? As opposed to da'watun with a ta marbuta, that's an invitation. So if people were given on account of their claims, bida'wahum, on account of their claims, ladda'a, this is the verb that means to claim. Idda'a yadda'i. Idda'a yadda'i. From the which verb? Two. The lam is the extra letter. That's la for emphasis. Or actually law, la. Like on the sentence where it starts with law if, then at the beginning of the response, there's a lam. And this is on the 8th verb. Right? Because it's, and we give you a rule for this quickly. It's a rule, but just the principle of how you can identify. This is a modified form of the 8th verb. A modified form of the 8th verb. Right? So what are the root letters? We had the word here, da'wa. What's the root letters? Dal, ayn, waw. Dal, ayn, waw. The la is a harf for emphasis, as we said. So the verb is idda'a. Idda'a, yadda'i. Now how do we get idda'a? It's supposed to be idda'a. If ta'ala. Or idda'awa. But because that's like the weak letter just forms into a pulling letter, right? So idda'a, idda'a. And can you hear that the makhraj of the dal and the ta are so close? Idda'a. Like you just have to move your tongue a little bit forward so they just get assimilated. So instead of saying idda'a, we say idda'a. Now, if you want to know, quick, how do you know when these modified forms of the abwab are used? If there's a shadda only on the second root letter, then it's on the second bar. If you ever come across a verb that has a shadda on the first root letter and the second root letter, then it's a modified form of the fifth bar. Right? If it has a shadda on the first root letter only, then it's a modification of the eighth bar. Right? I'm going to say it again. Shadda on the second root letter only, second bar. Shadda on the first and second root letters, modified fifth bar. Shadda on the first root letter only, modified eighth bar. Right, so can you see this one here? Idda'a, shadda on the first root letter only, modified eighth bar. Right? لو يعطى الناس بدعواهم لادعى. If people were given according to their claims, لادعى, then ادعى رجال, men would have claimed أموال قوم, the wealth of a people, ودماءهم, and their blood. Dima is a plural of dam. Dam means blood. So if people were just, this is referring to a principle of qada, of judging between people. If people were just, we just accepted the claims of people, then men would start claiming other people's wealth and their lives. They have a right to their life, meaning maybe they would say, look, so-and-so is my slave, you can understand it like that. Or so-and-so did something for which he deserves death. Right? Rasulullah says, if people were given according to their claims, لَادَّعَى رِجَالٌ أَمْوَالَ قَوْمٍ وَدِمَاءَهُم لَكِنَّ الْبَيِّنَةَ عَلَى الْمُدَّعِي. So if idda'a, yadda'i is to claim, the mudda'i is what? The one who claims, the claimant. And the mudda'a is the thing that is claimed. Right? So, lakin, rather, al-bayyinata ala al-mudda'i. The bayyina is a proof. The bayyina is ala, upon the mudda'i, the claimant. The one that makes the claim, he has to present the proof for his claim. وَالْيَمِينَ عَلَى مَنْ أَنْكَرَ. And the yameen literally means a right hand, but figuratively it means a oath. And an oath is ala, upon man ankara, the one that denies. So what we're saying here, if somebody comes and makes a claim over another person, the person that presents the claim has to bring a proof. And to rebut the claim, the person, the defendant, simply has to say, or has to make an oath that the claim is invalid. Obviously, if the person presents a proof, or he presents sufficient witness, which is a form of proof, right? Then you cannot simply swear an oath that the claim is false, right? Then we have to follow the bayyina, we have to follow the proof. So this is a hadith pertaining to law, and specifically in law, how we deal with claims, a matter of qada, and how we judge between each other as well. البينة على المدعي واليمين على من أنكر. And it speaks about it speaks about the principle of what's the correct word now? Basically, the original state of non-guilt, right? That guilty until, innocent until proven guilty, not the other way around, right? And how that is essential to law. And it also speaks about the principle, another principle that we use in Sharia, and that is نحكم بالظواهر والله يتولى السرائر. نحكم بالظواهر. We judge according to what is apparent, and we leave whatever is hidden to Allah. Right? There's another hadith in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells some people that he's judging between. That if I pass a judgment, and through that judgment, you are taking something from somebody that is not your right, then I am only giving to you a portion of the hellfire. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the judge. Right? He says that if I pass a judgment that allows you to take something from somebody that is not yours, then I am only cutting for you a portion of the hellfire. So the responsibility of the judge is to use the evidence at hand. But if the disputing parties know that they've presented false information to the judge, then he is not responsible for that. But they will be taken to task for that in the akhirah. And that's very important. Because we actually, we live in a world where the apparent pursuit for justice doesn't know its bounds. Right? And on account of that, every now and then we have movements that pop up that want to change the principles of law. For example, not too long ago, we had the Me Too movement, who were promoting, and some intellectuals, academics, amongst the Muslims as well, were promoting the idea that as soon as a claim is made, that claim must be accepted. The party must, the defendant must be treated as guilty until he can prove his innocence. Again, sounds absurd, but seriously, this is what we were debating 2-3 years ago, maybe even last year as well. But that goes against the principles of the Sharia. نحكم بالظواهر والله يتولى السرائر. A person is innocent until proven guilty. We judge based on what is apparent. If somebody comes, a person committed a crime, whatever the crime may be, somebody stole your thing, right? He knows he stole your thing, you know he stole your thing, but you can't prove that he stole your thing. And it comes to a qadi, and the qadi says, because you cannot prove that he stole your thing, that he has the right to that thing and you do not have the right to that thing. So what you do now as a Muslim, you cry foul, the law is evil, all of these things, justice, justice, justice. Or you accept after the qadi has given his judgment that, look, this abode here is not the abode of ultimate justice. The abode of ultimate justice is the courts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the same principle, I think, where it becomes touchy is when it applies to, as Rasul says here, a people claim another's wealth and life. So many people now claim, they claim cases of, the whole Me Too movement was about sexual harassment, assault, rape, things like that, right? So now a female makes a claim, or somebody makes a claim on her behalf that person ABC did something to her. But there isn't enough testimony at all to prove the person guilty. So the qadi sitting in the court, he might feel, his heart might go out for the person that is that the crime was done to, but he doesn't have enough evidence to try the alleged rapist, whatever it may be. What do we do from the perspective of the Sharia? How do we look at that? The qadi may even have a feeling, he may want to, this guy, it's likely that he did this thing. But still, he doesn't have the proof. He cannot, according to the Sharia, pass a penalty upon that person or judge him as guilty. But what he will say is that, look, we leave your matter to Allah. Now, in the world that we live in, that is a very, very, very unsatisfying answer to most people. It's extremely unsatisfying answer. But the reason it's unsatisfying is because in their minds, the justice of the akhirah is insignificant in relation to the justice of this dunya. For some of them, they want immediate justice. But for others, I mean, some may also who promote such ideas, they may not even be Muslims. They don't necessarily even believe in the justice of the akhirah. But for a Muslim that cannot be satisfied by that law, it's because of the idea that, okay, he got away with it. But in the Muslim mind, it's not he got away with it. This is not the abode of justice. Fir'aun wasn't the people that Fir'aun harmed didn't get to flog him or anything. Okay, he died a terrible death. But they didn't get to flog him, they didn't get their stuff back from him, they didn't, complete justice is never served in this dunya. So that's why it's an unsatisfying answer. But to the believer who knows that this isn't the abode of complete justice, although we strive to attain it to our greatest ability, but the justice of the akhirah is the real one. That is a satisfying answer. That is a satisfying answer. Though we live in recognition of the fact that the law will make errors. There will be times when a person that actually did a crime will go free. And a person that at times made a claim falsely will be, stand as true in the court of law. We know that that happens. But there has to be a system so that law and order can prevail in the world, right? And as believers, we allow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to dictate to us what those parameters are, which error we should prefer, right? If there must be an error. So, I think this is why Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala includes this hadith of law, in specific of qada, in this compilation of 40 ahadith that's supposed to be a worldview shaping set of ahadith. Because it actually has a very important function in regulating the relationships between people. That's extremely important, as you'll come to see from the following hadith as well. Right? Any questions there? Good. Okay, then we continue, inshallah. Wait, okay, there we go. Now,